Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew. Keith Johnson.
They should use the progenitor tech to redo the Breen because they're lame.
Alan Seiler.
I can't believe it's over.
Veronica Dash.
Hi.
And we're back for the series finale of Star Trek Discovery, Life Itself.
Wow.
And Veronica, you want to go ahead and launch us off with a spoiler warning?
Yes. Spoilers.
Okay. Good job.
I thought I was being funny.
Oh, you were.
You
all
laughed?
are. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, I loved it. I thought this was a great. I thought it's a great series finale, but I think a great season finale.
Right. In spite of flying people back to Toronto to make it into a series finale.
Yeah.
Right.
It was still a great season finale.
Absolutely. What did you think, Keith?
Sorry. I thought it was good. I'm still not blown away by it, but that's not saying it was bad. I kept writing in my notes that it kept feeling like it was assembled from pieces of other Star Trek shows and movies and themes, which it was. And that's not a bad thing. But I enjoyed it. Didn't love it, but enjoyed it.
Yeah, I gotta say, visually, it's got to be the most stunning Star Trek episode.
Oh yeah, there was agreed.
That whole, I guess they were calling it the Infinity Chamber, or what were they calling it on the Ready Room? Infinity Chamber or Infinity Hallway or whatever that Infinity area was pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one of the best uses of the AR wall.
Mm-hmm. That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and caught just the last bit of last week's for continuity. And speaking of special effects, when the Discovery was attacking the Breen ship, they do something they rarely show in Star Trek. The view was from inside the Breen ship, and you look way off in the distance, and you saw the weapons coming at them. It's one of those views that you never see. So yeah, they pulled out some stops in their special effects and this stuff, and I enjoyed that.
Right. Yeah, and not just like digital effects, but a lot of practical things going on as well, and incorporating them. A lot of it live in camera, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially for this day and age, they don't do that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. True.
Now, something that I didn't even catch last week, and we've talked several times on the show this season about the end of the show, how we'll mirror the beginning of the show and that sort of thing. And it didn't even occur to me last week until I saw someone online pointed out that in the very first Discovery two-parter, it took place at the Battle of the Binary Stars, and then the two-part finale is at Binary Black Holes.
Oh my gosh!
And that didn't even occur to me last week.
How appropriate.
I did note that. I wrote that in my notes. Yeah, I was too focused on how the science didn't work, so I didn't.
I can't believe that's the angle that you looked at. I mean, come on. Who are you?
But considering they didn't plan this to be the finale, I think that worked out. Pretty nicely.
Agreed.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So where do we want to start this week? Anybody have an opinion they want to jump out with?
Well, I'm gonna start just for a second because a couple of people have said hi, and that is Matt Slipman says farewell Discovery.
Hey Matt.
And our good friend Wayne says hi, and also says didn't see the show, packing and moving, just wanted to be here with you guys.
Yay.
Oh, that's great.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, there are going to be spoilers, Wayne.
So yeah. But it won't spoil it for you, Wayne. If you hear all the spoilers, you can still enjoy the show. I feel in this case.
Yeah.
Okay. I would be so annoyed, but
he knew he was getting into.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And I knew this morning that it was going to be an extra long episode, and I still wanted to watch it before I went to work. Otherwise, I have to stay off social media all day long.
Right.
And so I got up extra. Like I was up like half an hour before my Star Trek alarm goes off at 4 a.m. So I got the whole thing watched and still got to work on time.
Yeah, same here. I did that too.
Yeah. I love the way. I mean, I'll just start with something. They made a point in this episode that really all of the journeys and all the objectives that everyone had all season they didn't accomplish. Maul didn't resurrect Locke. Culber didn't get his answers that he was looking for. Stamets didn't get the scientific discovery for his legacy. Book didn't resurrect his planet, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But then that was sort of the theme of, the season, at least possibly the series, was, and what Adira said to Stamets was that, but it was a great adventure and you learned a lot. Isn't that enough?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I really love the thing that it wasn't about, the destination. It wasn't about getting the prize at the end. It was about the journey.
Yeah.
Considering the franchise is called Star Trek, that's pretty fitting. I thought that was a really good theme.
Yeah.
I thought so too. It reminded me strangely of in TNG, the episode Heart of Glory, when Worf meets the Klingons. Remember, the Klingons were basically rebelling against the Empire, and they were talking about how the Klingon race is diminished, and Worf said the battle is in here. It's in here where you are. It's not out external. So I kind of like that. I did too. At first, I was kind of like, you're kidding me. They're not going to just say, we can't use the technology. I'm one of those guys. I hate it when they bury super tech. but I just kind of hate it. But then I was like, okay, I kind of get what she's saying. And I love the fact that the typical science fiction is we can't use it. We dare not use it. And her point was, we don't need it. And I thought that was an interesting slight take on that. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. It ties it in with the idic philosophy of Star Trek, is that, they don't need to create this infinite diversity. They already have that.
Yeah.
Like what would be the point of them creating more stuff? But also it's this classical science fiction idea that everyone's killing each other to get this powerful thing, and you finally get there, and it's basically a message saying, we wish you would all get along better. That's like old school sci-fi right there.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
Also, I made a note too, because I wondered, even if they did bring it back, what would happen to it? Because isn't the Genesis device still like being kept under lock and key?
Well, maybe. I mean, we saw in Lower Decks that even the Ferengi were knocking off Genesis devices. So there's no telling what the status is of Genesis devices.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Genesis device can't do what this place in this, like this weird infinite construct thing. Like, I mean, it's on a scale unlike anything that we've seen in Star Trek, I think. And I mean, it's similar technologically to like Kovich's little Kovich room that, sort of this weird infinity space they go to.
Yeah.
But just on a huge scale, like a mind-bending scale.
I've got an interesting comment from Irish Banshee.
Okay.
And that is...
Oh, that's probably Elaine.
Oh, is it? Oh, hi, Elaine.
I think so.
Okay. Culber seemed to be okay with the mystery after all, and Book did get to take his world route to a new planet. Yep, exactly. I kind of felt weird about the Culber storyline. I mean, it just seemed like, I don't know, magical revelations. I mean, I know it's tied to the guy who occupied his body for a while, but the information was so specific.
Yeah.
That I don't know. It seemed weird, but I feel like I kind of left hanging with him not getting some kind of like epiphany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
And maybe the epiphany is that, I'm okay with, it just seemed like they strung that thing out through, a number of episodes to not do anything with it much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my impression was that maybe Janelle had left this specific thing there for him that compelled him to go on this mission and compelled him to know exactly what to do, when Janelle was in his mind. But you're right. And that wasn't explicitly said. And they sort of left it as him sort of appreciating the mystery of life instead of finding the answers he was looking for.
Right.
But I did like that he got I'm a doctor, not a physicist line, but with a little bit of a twist to it.
Yes, I love the twist. It was fantastic. I know I'm not a doctor.
He is a doctor, Veronica.
No, wait, no, sorry.
He is.
I know I'm a doctor, not a physicist.
He is, in
There.
fact, a doctor.
Yeah.
I'll be okay.
Every doctor on Star Trek should get to say that at some point.
Yes.
Like you gotta work it in there before the end. I thought that was nice.
Right. The Voyager doctor got a few of those that were classic.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what?
No, you go.
Oh, what did you think of the battle with the Breen?
Meh.
Really?
Was there actually a battle? I mean, it just
They
didn't
were
seem
fighting fighters.
Yeah, I thought it
And
was
then they
lame.
made them all blow up.
Yeah, blowed up real good. Yeah, I thought it was lame. The Breen, they have broken my heart with the Breen. The Breen are just so lame. The lady comes up, he's like, "Hey, if you don't leave, I'm gonna get your base, and you might not be the okay. I'm gonna turn around," and then she leaves like one little spot. They just destroyed the Breen. I'm sorry, and I love the Breen, but they came off as lame. Also, it doesn't help that I watched last week's episode again, and I looked at the fight scenes where they like kicked a couple of Breen and the Breen fell down. Like, this is not the Breen. So
Yeah,
I'm
but I mean, that's
disappointed.
every Star Trek race. I mean, how many times have Klingons been buffoons, or the Romulan
Worf.
guys? They'll just karate chop them from the back and run off. I mean,
Right.
that sort of goes with being a Star Trek series, I think.
And speaking of that, Discovery has run its entire 5 seasons, and we still have not seen a 32nd century Klingon.
True. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
that's
They did come back to
disappointing.
the Klingons.
that's right.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened to him.
Matt is instructing me to say Elaine's YouTube handle in a deep voice. Irish Banshee. I don't know if that's what he had in mind, but
I don't either.
what he did.
I don't get it.
That's what he got.
Since it was a
Because
Banshee,
he does
he's
he's a Tiger Blade 2002. So
Oh,
yeah, that's true.
okay.
Okay, I got you. Yeah,
That makes
I
sense.
took the whole the Saru thing as being more of just showing how far him and his people have come since the beginning of Discovery, because he was able to stare down that Breen and then use his species reputation for being predators to get her to back down. Whereas when we met Saru, he was a prey species, and that was what we knew of them. And they learned over the course of the show that they weren't actually prey; it was like an artificial thing that was happening to them, and that they actually were. You know, if they had reached their it's not Jamaharan, it's something else. that they become, you know, a lot more fierce. And I think that's when he made a point of the fact that, you know, I'm a Kelpian and I recognize you as prey and we're predators, and then the Breen like backed off. And I thought that's impressive for a species. Like when we first met him, it was, you know, I can sense the coming of death. And his thing, like his Star Trek thing, was being afraid.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
His Star Trek thing.
Star Trek aliens always have a thing.
Yeah, I hear you, Charles. They ruined my Breen. So it's an incredibly personal thing. I didn't realize how much I liked the Breen until they brought him back.
Yeah.
And ruined them.
But speaking of Saru, one of the things that we have talked about before, and Chuck, you in particular, wanting to see Saru in a diplomatic situation. So does this satisfy that desire?
Well, I wouldn't say it satisfies that as a diplomatic situation. I would say this satisfies my desire I had 2 years ago to see him being a good captain when he wasn't, when he was the captain of Discovery. So we finally got there, but I would really, for the diplomacy thing, I really would rather see him negotiating with diplomats and that sort of thing, rather than staring down a hostile captain.
Right. So if the show were to carry on to season 7, we might actually get some diplomacy from him.
Yeah, he'll catch up eventually.
Yeah, because Michael herself said that she mixed what did she call him? Action Saru. So
yeah, they always call him Action Saru.
Yeah, so
that was a running joke from earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Matt says, I don't have an emotional attachment that Keith has for the Breen, so I really don't care that Saru owned them in this.
Yeah, I think it helps that I didn't like I didn't like the Breen on DS9, so I got nothing to lose. You know.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Wayne says, hey, if Klingons can sing K-pop, the Breen can get their butts kicked. I know, I did a cross-series comparison.
No, I think that's pretty apt.
And as a reminder to everyone, there's going to be a Subspace Rhapsody picture show at Dragon Con, and I'm playing Pelia, so come out to Dragon Con and see the Subspace Rhapsody picture show.
There you go.
Let's see, is there a way I can block Wayne?
Elaine, aka Irish Banshee, says that she loved seeing Action Saru tonight.
At this point I'm glad to see Saru on the Star Trek Discovery.
Yes.
Right.
I hate that it worked out that he couldn't be in so much of the season this year, especially when it ended up being the last one. I would have loved to have seen him on it more. I know it's a business and you got to go where your contract says to go and that sort of thing, but you know, I mean, I would love to have seen more of him in the series, but I enjoyed him tonight, and I was glad they got Non back on.
Yeah, that was a nice.
I love Commander Flatbread, and was very pleased to see her show up. That was a nice surprise.
Yeah. Well, what do we think about the maneuver to use the spore drive to jump the Breen ship away?
That was crazy.
That was cool.
There was some crazy science stuff going on, because when they were also like figure out how to make sure that he doesn't get irradiated, then they're just like, here's a little device that we just invented. We never had this before, and we just made it.
Yeah.
But it's not going to work perfectly. And then they're like, ooh, we could do this thing. What? No.
Yeah, but I just like this episode more than everybody. But I thought that was just classic Star Trek when everyone's like, no, we can't possibly do that. It's impossible unless.
Right.
And then
I agree.
they made it happen. I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
I thought it was. I
was
mean,
cool.
It was definitely creative thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I
it was creative thinking, but I was like, Also, I wanted to point out something. That fight between Burnham and
Maul.
Burnham started it.
Yes.
I didn't realize that the first watch through, but when I was watching it this evening with Chuck, I was like, oh, because I originally thought that Maul had tried to chop her first, but no, she did a round kick and started it all.
Yeah.
And then she's like, let's call it truce. And I'm like, you started it.
I was like,
Burnham started it? I completely missed that. I didn't know Burnham started it.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, I intended to back it up and make sure I saw it right, because I was like, did Maul actually start this? And I just saw it wrong?
No, Burnham was trying to take her down because she was going to be like, the Breen will help me get what I want. So
I was.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that was intentional, or maybe it was something that, as a result of editing, that came out that way. But I would have liked to see Maul be more conscious in the choice of not bringing Locke back. You know, sort of like she got knocked out by the thing, and then when she woke up, Burnham's like, "Wow, the progenitor said we can't do it." It's like, "Oh, I'm nuts." Let's go. You know, I would have liked for her to have to give it up. You know, or I mean, this is all kind of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where if she like can't give it up and gets destroyed, you know, like Ilsa in Last Crusade. You know, I think that something like that would have helped with Maul's storyline. Maul, I still really haven't connected with Maul.
I feel like they were planning on using her for the next season originally.
I don't think so. Discovery doesn't do that. Like, you get one season, then you're out.
Yeah. I mean, if they were going to do that, they would have done it with the green chick from 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, Charles, because I wrote in my notes that I just don't see Maul as on the level that they tried to paint her. She's incredible. She basically was one step away from ruling the Breen, whatever, the Imperium, or whatever they call it, Breen Alliance. She was basically pushing all the Breen soldiers around, and I actually like the character, but I don't like the way they used the character. She didn't feel that cosmic or epic as they painted her. No. To me, I never bought her more as just kind of like a petty thief and smuggler.
Yeah.
But you know,
and I mean, that's all.
Yeah. But I didn't buy her on that level, because she was almost 2 steps ahead of people in strange ways. It just didn't work for me on that level.
Yeah, considering she didn't find any of the clues, she did a pretty good job of getting to the treasure, you know?
Yeah.
But I think maybe it would have helped with the Breen thing if, like, once they got there, they were like, all right, good, we're here, get rid of this chick. And she's like, what? I thought you were all following me. And they, like, maybe they had turned it on her, you know? Instead of the way it happened in the show, where it's just like, well, I'm in love with you. I'm married to your scions. Now I'm in charge. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Which, you're right. That doesn't reflect well on the Breen.
No,
right.
It doesn't. And I thought it was weird the progenitor said, it doesn't make sense when the progenitor lady said, basically, we can clone the body, but there won't be the mind and the soul are basically there, which I guess makes sense because, well, if his brain decayed, I guess there'd be nothing left there. So I guess that makes sense.
Well, that's actually how cloning works, which they don't usually do on Star Trek. Usually on Star Trek, when you clone someone, they have their memories and stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, an actual clone wouldn't. I mean, and it could be that whoever created this thing, like, put a failsafe in where you just can't do that. Like, they didn't believe in continuing life that way. That's a thing we've seen many times on Star Trek.
You know,
I still don't understand why they didn't revive Book's planet, because it's something that could be done. It wasn't a sentient life. You had like the basis to get it going. They could have at the very least brought back the world, not the people, obviously.
But what's the point of the world?
They could have brought back the people,
but they wouldn't be the people anymore.
They would, because they would have been clones of Book, and he was one of the people.
Right.
So...
They'd be the species.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be the people that he lost.
True.
And really, the whole thing is that he lost his family at his home. But we'll come back around to that towards the end. But I think the whole point of it was like to move forward, to quit grasping for the past and trying to recreate and get back what you lost. That's sort of what everyone was sort of scrambling for to get to this, you know, thing to begin with.
Yeah.
And for the power and to destroy the universe, that sort of thing.
Right.
That's what the brain are after, you know. Well, what do we think of the revelation? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree with Veronica. They could have at least used it to revive Book's planet, but she kicked it inside the event horizon. So good luck with that.
What do we think of the revelation that the progenitors didn't create this thing?
I'm fine with that.
I thought that was perfect.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
they have been painted as these godlike figures that created life all across the universe and stuff. And no, they're not. No,
they just stumbled on this thing. They're like, hey, look at this. We can use this to make more intelligent species and we won't be alone. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's a cool sort of, and for one, it increases the scope of the story, but also it's just a cool sci-fi thing of, we found this 4 billion year old species that is the start of all life in the universe. And then like, how did you get this technology? Like, I don't know. It was here when we got here. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and there's precedent for it because in Voyager, there were these subspace conduits that you communicate and travel that giant hunter race, the Hirogen, used. And it turned out they didn't create those. They found them. And even crossing streams, even in Stargate, you find out the Goa'uld did not create the Stargates. They just used them. You find out another race that created them. So yeah, I think that is, I actually thought that was kind of cool as well. I also thought it was interesting because the progenitor, because of that, Charles, the progenitor was less godlike than I might have expected. She was almost kind of normal, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? She's kind of like, hey, whatever, you got all the answers you need. Hey.
So was the first one we ever met, though, back on Next Generation.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a whole bunch of comments that have come in. So let's do it. Irish Banshee says, even though Burnham started it, the whole fight was way too long. I was tired of it and glad it ended.
I don't like battle scenes, space or in person. I don't care for them.
I love fight scenes, but I kept saying she just had her femoral artery nicked and just repaired. And she was basically kicking Michael's butt for a long time. So, and again, it's just Super Maul.
Super Maul. Matt says that Maul accepted the thing about not being able to revive Locke way too easily.
Agreed.
Yeah. Elaine says, I almost wonder if Maul saw something when she was connected to the device that scared her more than she let on.
At that point, you're writing the episode for him, but yeah, that's certainly a possibility.
And then Matt says, also to Keith's point, wasn't it kind of stupid for all of the Breen fighters to get caught in that trap?
Lame. I'm telling you, they are not serious warriors.
I mean,
we've established that the Breen are not the smartest guys out there. They all need an oil bath.
Okay, Wayne. Wayne says, by the way, on a comment made earlier, I have seen episodes and movies where weapons were coming at ships from the point of view of the bridge. Wrath of Khan, for an example.
Yeah, good point, Rain. I always love that when they show different views.
And then he says, also when the Romulans fought the Romulans in original series.
Oh yeah, he's talking about when the Romulan ship would appear and shoot a ball of energy and then disappear.
Yeah. Matt says apparently the progenitors had their own progenitors. And Wayne wraps it up by saying, remembering when we discussed how the series would end, I wasn't far off.
Yeah, Wayne, to your point, as Charles was saying, avoiding spoilers, I did not watch the show until 6 o'clock this evening. And my phone came up with a Facebook feed that said, viewer thoughts on how the series would end. And so I had to immediately not watch it because it was all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this one. I thought it was good. I liked Rayner in this one. I thought I enjoyed him just fully being in command of the crew. I thought they got some good. Tilly didn't get a lot to do in this one.
No.
But I mean, she's been sort of more present this season than she was last season.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she was barely on the show last season, except for like a few episodes toward the end.
Right. She took a big break.
Yeah.
I think,
but you know what? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Alan.
was going to say, what's good about Tilly's involvement in this one is that there was a lot of talk about Starfleet Academy.
Yeah.
And she even set up, not that any particular setup is needed, but they set up a way for some of our current stars to show up on the Academy show by saying, I'm going to start a mentor program.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd be okay with seeing them show up.
Excuse me. I think the thing with some of them not getting shown, and I didn't think Stamets actually got a lot to do and so forth. I think over and over we see that they did not expect this to be their last season. I'm sure, you know, they had plans because they thought they were going 7 seasons. So they were probably not, like Jet Reno didn't really do anything in this last episode. I'm sure they didn't think about that. Yeah,
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, but considering they didn't plan this to be the last season or the last episode, it works out really well. I think this makes a really good final season, and it has a lot of callbacks to previous seasons of Discovery, and like I said, even with the finale, it sort of just bookends the series. I think it works out great. Did you notice that they changed the intro sequence?
No,
they added a bunch of the little things that pop up in the intro sequence. They added a bunch of ones from previous seasons.
Yeah,
so like
they
the Red
had
Angel.
That was the one I noticed.
What?
Oh,
Red Angel?
The Red Angel.
The Rangel.
The Rangel is what you said.
No, because you were talking, so I didn't fully finish it.
Yeah, no, they had the Red Angel and the Zora thing and the TOS communicator that pops up.
That's really cool. I skipped most of the intro. I usually don't, but it was early in the morning, and I'm like, this is an hour and a half. I got to get on with this nonsense. I stuck around through it just long enough to see if Tig Notaro was in the opening credits, and then I moved on. And now I got to go back and watch it again.
Yeah, I thought it's just a nice little touch, which I'm sure they have all those files. It's just a matter of re-editing it. So I thought that was cool.
Right.
Yeah. Did we have
more
before we
the one thing that has stayed constant? What? Oh, I thought you froze. The one thing that has stayed constant throughout the entire 5 seasons of opening credits is that stupid flower that blooms at the crescendo of the orchestra.
I always thought it was a spore. Is that not a spore?
Oh, I have no idea.
I thought spores were mushrooms.
Well, mushrooms, they come off of mushrooms, don't they?
Right. Oh, I guess maybe it could be a spore. I've never thought about it that
zoomed in on, maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, what were you trying to say when I was being silly?
I was going to say, did we have more we want to touch upon in the episode itself before we start including the stuff from the ending and the denouement?
Yes. And maybe we've already talked about it enough, but I just thought that first of all, I was kind of surprised that I don't know why, that this episode was so Michael heavy. Yeah. You know, I kind of felt like there was a lot of her separate from everybody else. When, you know, I would really rather have, you know, the group together. And I just kind of felt like she was off on her own thing, like way too long and way too much. But that plays into the ending too. But also this whole interaction with the progenitor, I thought was super interesting. And that whole discussion between them, as it went on for quite a time. I mean, time doesn't work the same in the progenitor, you know, realm. So I didn't have that same problem that I usually have with them stopping the action to have a discussion, because in this sense it worked because they told you how it works. Right. But I just thought just philosophically, I thought that whole discussion was really, really interesting.
Yeah. And that was the sort of thing I was looking for last week that I was saying that I wanted to see more of when we get to this point. And I'm glad it did. And I thought that the progenitor, first off, the makeup and everything was super effective. I love the choice of actors to play it. And I thought that, I just thought that whole sequence was really great. It had a very, I keep saying it, but it has a very like classical science fiction feel where it's like, you know, an alien with a big head and a white robe, you know, coming out with the answers, you know.
But I was most struck by the fact that this is the thing that the entire season we've been working up to, and the progenitor is handing it to Michael on a plate. Here it is. It's all yours. And she couldn't get on with it because her friends are in danger. And I loved that. I thought that was so Michael.
Yeah.
And it's Star Trek. I mean, we've seen that before in Star Trek where it's like,
oh yeah,
even something as simple as Riker like turning down the powers of the Q. because like, this is too powerful. I don't want this. I just want my life.
Right.
I mean, I agree with her decision to chuck that thing into the black hole. I don't think it's good for anybody. It's just gonna like the galaxy will end up fighting over it. You know?
Right. I mean, if you use it for good, how much good can you actually do with it?
Yeah.
I mean, as she said, there's just so much you can do, and everything that has been done has already been done, and there's no point in doing any more. If you want to use it for bad intentions, there's all kinds of things you can do. So yeah.
And it's kind of the same philosophy as the Prime Directive, where we don't give like, I'm sure there's plenty of planets that would benefit in the short term, at least from weapons or medical technology, but they're not ready for it. You need to get to that point on your own. And the same kind of a thing. It's kind of a self-imposed reverse Prime Directive of like, no, we need to keep doing our thing.
Yeah.
It's so weird because
Matt says,
go ahead. I said it's so weird because raised the way I was and stuff, every time I see tech like this, it's so funny. I always think, and this is crazy, I think I could probably use that tech for good and put it away. So I'm like Veronica, I'm like, man, don't throw that tech away. Go redo that planet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm a cautionary tale.
But what would happen would be that the guy next door would think, well, I could use it better than him.
Yeah.
And you say, well, no, you're going to use it wrong. And then the guy on the other side is going to say, well, I could use it better than both of you. And it ends up turning into a fight over.
Yeah, that's where the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. True.
And no matter what you do in with the intention of using it for good, it's going to be bad for somebody.
This is true.
All right. Matt says, I really enjoyed the battle in this one. Well plotted and directed. I understood each tactic as it was performed, and they avoided confusion in how it was presented. Excellent.
Yeah.
Elaine says, callbacks to previous series, the bottle of Chateau Picard, a baseball, Geordie's visor, and we learned that Kovic all this time has been Agent Daniels. That was the craziest revelation that we could have gotten, I think.
Yeah, were you surprised by that?
I was terrified.
Very.
I was afraid he was going to be Wesley Crusher when I saw all the stuff. I'm like, if this is Wesley, if he morphs into grinning Will Wheaton, I'm out.
Oh, that's funny. That would have been some stuff too if they had him be Will and then not be, I mean, Wesley, and not have Will Wheaton play him. That'd be funny.
Right.
All right. Matt also says, I did think that Michael deciding to turn down the power was very predictable, but it was the right choice. Agreed on both counts. And then he says it's a good day to be an Enterprise fan.
Yeah. I wrote Charles's name down next to that note. Hey, Charles, Enterprise callback.
Yeah.
I don't remember Agent Daniels at all.
Yeah, Agent Daniel was he was a character from Enterprise.
Yes, I know. He was a time cop or something like that.
Yeah, they didn't even know when they wrote it.
He was like a different thing every time he appeared.
Yeah, the creators of the show don't know what he was, but he isn't necessarily time traveling to be there. I mean, we don't know I think it was Daniel's a 31st century guy, and we're in the 32nd century now. We don't know how long someone from the 31st century lives. He could just still be around.
Could have been the end of the 31st century.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. I when Michael made the decision to get rid of the progenitor's tech, and then they basically said Rayner said our mission. She basically said, "I'll talk to the admiral," and blah blah blah. I actually wrote in my notes, we need Admiral Nechayev there to dress her down, because I don't want to spoil it because Elaine's here, but let's just say Nechayev dresses people down who gets rid of what she thinks is great technology. So I thought you need somebody like that to just read her the riot act.
Yeah. I mean, we've already seen this season what happens when people find out about this technology, and all of a sudden they're on the brink of war that they weren't at the start of the season. So I think they absolutely made the right call, and it's very Star Trek-y. It wouldn't be a Star Trek-y to stay there and be the person.
Yeah. But at the same time, I would like to have seen the confrontation between Burnham and the higher ups, and having her have to explain her actions. I've spent 10 episodes trying to find this thing, and then I checked it in the bin at the last minute.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see somebody have to be convinced, because that typically there's always some admiral or something who's like, what the hell, what did you just do? But
I mean, if we had gotten that, then the episode would have been like an hour and 40 minutes, and that's
Yeah.
just too much.
Well, just the fact that she talked to him first and she had faith that they were going to agree with her shows that Starfleet is a more evolved organization than it was in the 24th century. Because in the 24th century, like Picard would have had to just throw it in there and then explain afterward, because there's no way he's going to get clearance to do that.
No, yeah, again, the champ would have read him the riot. And I think it's funny you say that, Charles, because in the original series, when Kirk steals the cloaking device, as everybody probably knows, the reason that they didn't use a cloaking device was Gene Roddenberry. And he just said Federation would not use a cloaking device. It wasn't honorable, which to me is insane. But yeah, you're right. Because back then, Kirk stole the cloaking device with the point of getting the technology to the Federation. And there was a huge fight behind scenes. There was a lot of people in the original series who wanted the Federation to have cloaking device tech after that. And Roddenberry said, no, it's just wrong. It just doesn't fit the aesthetic of what I want the future to be. It's sneaky. Yeah. So I guess this fits into that.
Before we transition into the epilogue, here's a thing from Matt Sweatman, who says, I believe the scene at Saru's wedding where Michael and Book are going off on a red directive probably was the intended end of the season. And I think so too.
Yeah.
And that would have worked as a series capper. I think so too. I don't really, well, we're going to talk about it, but that seemed like a really great ending, not only for the season, but for the series.
Yeah, I agree.
Did they need to fly all those people back to Toronto and, write a new script and get Frakes in to direct a scene? And, I don't know.
Yeah, but I do think that the capper that they added to it gave it a more of a sense of finality.
Yeah.
Then it would have felt, more like you got left hanging. We're off on the next adventure, and then we all want to see what happens next. So I think that coming back to it just closes the series out in a more final way. But let's talk about the wedding first. What do we think about Saru's wedding?
We didn't get to see the wedding. We got to see them walk out into the reception.
Okay, but we got to saw where the wedding was held and what they were wearing and everybody there.
It was pretty.
It was pretty.
I thought that was sweet, and I will give Discovery credit to have two incredibly different looking aliens. And I like their romance. It's just those are both just likable characters. So I love the sweetness of their relationship, and so I thought that actually put a goofy smile on my face. So that was fun.
And I love that. That's a couple that didn't feel like the writers forced them together. Because as soon as they were on screen together, the fans picked up on the chemistry between those two characters.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I like that, and it's weird because even though she's a Vulcan, because Doug Jones is so tall, it makes her look up at him, and when she looks up at him, she almost always looks up at him like this. There's no other way to say it, like this kind of love in her eyes. It's cute. And when he looks down at her, he looks down at her with gentleness. So they work, and they never should have worked, but they just, like you said, it's natural and it works. They're a nice couple.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I liked that. I mean, that's what you called it last week, Keith. That's what you're looking for is Book and Burnham back together with a kiss. And for a minute, it looked like the show was going to end on like, hey, Keith nailed that.
My wife was upstairs, so she only caught the last 30 minutes, and I swear she walked in just as that. She goes, "About time." When Book and Burnham got together. So I thought that was cool. One thing I would like to see, looking back whenever we do our retrospective, is it would be amazing to see Sonequa Martin Green again as Michael Burnham, the Vulcan wannabe, in the very first episodes, and this Burnham. She's such a different character. She has such a natural, sweet smile. So that contrast, if nothing else, is really cool. I do like that.
I agree. I do like, and this is to be saved for next week, but I really do like that journey from that first episode that we saw to where we see her later on in her life. I think that's just been an incredible story. And God, Sonequa is just an amazing actor.
She really is
incredible.
And Discovery, more so than most other Star Trek series, maybe the exception of Star Trek Picard, is about Michael Burnham. It's about one character. It's one character's journey, and then everyone else is sort of just in their story.
Yes.
So I thought that the way that it ended was pretty fitting.
Yeah.
It was, yes. However, I really wanted it to be about the family.
Yeah.
The Discovery family.
Sure.
And it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because it was like a goodbye to Michael, but not a goodbye to Discovery.
So like you see everybody in her flashback, but that was it.
And we did get a goodbye to Discovery. Let's go ahead and get into the epilogue thing.
Yeah.
We got a flash forward to the future.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a Star Trek finale tradition.
Yeah.
At least a lot of them have done it, is jump forward in time, at least in some capacity. But I thought it was really nice that we got to see Michael with a home and a family.
Yeah.
And the same for Book, because he lost his. But when we were introduced to Michael, it's a big deal that she had been orphaned and she was raised on Vulcan, where she didn't really fit in. So the fact that now that she has a family of her own and a home and a pretty nice pad, if I can say so.
Yeah.
That I thought it was nice. I thought it was a nice way of bringing that character full circle. And now she's the mother.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And I thought the way that they aged her, she just looked phenomenal.
Yeah. Her and Book both they played the new age well.
Yeah, old age makeup has gotten better since the 90s. I will say that.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yes.
Yeah. And did you notice that the little space deer that she was talking to, that she called Alice, which there was a big deal early in Discovery that Amanda would read her Alice in Wonderland?
Oh yeah.
I didn't make that connection.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Elaine does say, "I want an Alice," the creature that Burnham was fencing out in her backyard. Yeah, it was precious.
Matt Sweatman has a pretty interesting comment.
Yeah, I was just going to look at that. Do Starfleet couples always end up spending their old age in a cabin in the wilderness?
I think regardless of if they're a couple, I think Starfleet people.
I think it just makes sense narratively.
Yeah.
Because you spend all of your time like in a artificial environment.
Yes.
People would want to go out to nature.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't want to see a Starfleet officer retire and they live like in a metal room in a building instead of in one in space, But I think she has the nicest house in the woods that we've seen for a Star Trek captain so far.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Matt, I think they do. And the only one I can think of who didn't, was with Kirk in the movies. Well, he was still an admiral. He was living in a nice pad in San Francisco.
Yeah, but in Generations, he was.
Yeah.
He had a cabin in the Nexus.
Yes, he did.
Right.
Yes,
that's
he did.
Right. Speaking of the Nexus, when Burnham and Maul first went into that Infinity Quarter thing, I wrote, if Picard shows up in that Christmas tale thing in there, I'm turning it off.
That'd be awesome if she went in there and it was William Shatner chopping wood. Like, I need your help to defeat the breed.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But we saw that, what's it, 30, 40 years later, and she has a son who's now a starship captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Promoted.
Yeah, I thought that was nice.
Leto.
Yeah. Which I think was that the name of Book's nephew who died on Qui-Gon? Wasn't that Leto?
Right.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I didn't look it up.
I couldn't place that name.
Yeah. Either that or she's a big fan of Dune.
That would
I'm not
make
sure
sense,
which. Well, let's talk about
Nothing wrong
Calypso.
with that.
Because just recently, Vandy Beth Glenn, our friend, had posted on the Earth Station Trek group talking about Calypso and how great it was, and maybe they'll tie it back in. And I had argued that I don't think you can at this point and specifically about D refitting the ship. And I even posted, I went on Nerd, had like pictures, like side comparison, like if you refer to figure A, you can see here. But no, they actually did it. They actually D refit the ship.
I don't know why.
Just to tie into Calypso, I guess.
But like, why would Starfleet do that?
They even took the A off of it. They put back the old nacelles. Like it was like season 2 style Discovery.
Because I was looking specifically at the nacelles and they still look detached.
I don't think so. I think it was the D refitted Discovery.
Okay.
They may have. It could be they just scratched the A off, but to me it looked like the old version of the ship.
They scratched the A off.
It probably was. It wouldn't make sense to do that scene and not to do it that way.
Because they still have the CGI models.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Easily done. Yeah. But still, in story, why?
I don't know.
There's no reason.
Well,
she wouldn't know that it was what type that, because she was only in the one room. She wouldn't know it had been refitted or not.
What are you talking about?
Because the only reason Michael would have done that is because she knows that it's supposed to be there. But she wouldn't have known that this is the not refitted ship. Well, she was only in the one room.
That's the least of the problems. Michael, I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with Michael. I think because she even specifically mentioned craft. So someone somewhere knows about craft, and so I don't even know what the end game of this is.
Yeah.
I could see the point, because my thought was like, if you're going to decommission Discovery, how do you decommission a sentient ship if you can't get the AI out? But it seems kind of cruel just to send her out to wait for 1,000 years in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're watching Calypso, you're left with the impression that something happened to the crew.
Right.
Because it seemed like Zora didn't know. Like she was waiting for them to show back up or something.
Right.
It's been a long time since I've watched it, but it just seemed like it wasn't like it, not necessarily something nefarious, but that, you know, like something. And here it is. They're just like dumping her out in the middle of nowhere to like just hang out by herself.
Yeah, that was very confusing to me, because then, sorry, but she also said something like Zora might be waiting longer than Michael's alive or before she can get back or something like that. Yeah. And I'm the same way. I'm like, well, what's the point? You're just going to send that sentient being out there to wait for what? And I have no clue what that was all about. I mean, none.
Do you remember Calypso?
Yeah, and that's funny you brought that up, because I did not even make these connections until you started saying that. Because I literally was sitting there going, I'm not sure where this is going. I just did. Yeah.
Yeah, when I rewatched it this evening, I rewatched Calypso right after just to see how it flows, and it flows well enough. But I mean, in Calypso, I mean, he's really just on the ship for maybe a couple of days, and then he takes off again. So I don't know. They left it sort of mysterious of how anyone from Starfleet would know that in 1,000 years craft is going to land on Discovery, or that he would exist, or that it's worth sending Zora out there. And now that craft's gone, it seems like she was just all alone again.
Yeah.
With a tear growing down her holographic face. So
so that's what confused me about it.
Yeah, I think originally when Calypso was written, I think probably the plan was more for the crew to jump forward in time and Discovery to wait for them. But then they had another showrunner shuffle, and the story got changed, and that didn't end up happening. So I think it would have made more sense if it had just been when Discovery dreams, or with Zora dreams, she has weird dreams like Calypso. But I mean, they went through the trouble. I know a lot of fans have clamored for Calypso to tie in, and they went through the trouble of ending it that way.
Yeah. True. Okay, a couple of comments from Matt. The first one is, I can't explain it, but I can't accept the rank insignia being in the center of their collar.
Correct. That's wrong. That is not how rank insignia works.
I did think older Michael's Admiral uniform looked really cool.
Yes, the Admiral uniform is fine, because they already have the pips on either side. So I didn't mind that, because it's even.
Yeah.
Well, technically they should be on the sleeve and not on the collar at all. If you go back to real Star Trek. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Real Star Trek.
Well, if you're going to start that, they should have name tags. So
Matt also says, I really wanted more of the Discovery crew meeting her in that last scene, not just from weird dream. Me too. And that's the thing that really kind of got me, you know, like, so is she just flying off in the ship by herself? I mean, there's other people on the ship. Where's her bridge crew? I mean, it doesn't have to be the same bridge crew as what we've had this whole time, but aren't there other people doing jobs on this thing? I mean, I know they're just delivering it somewhere, but
well, she said there was a crew and someone would have had to have jumped it. So we're led to believe that really needs to be Stamets.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean, they specifically said the book didn't come and that her son wasn't coming. And so you would think that Stamets would be the guy who's got to be old man Stamets, maybe down there jumping the ship. But yeah, the whole thing didn't make a whole lot of sense. Like,
no,
it wasn't really meant to, but I mean,
well, no.
One thing I did like about it was that at the very end, after all these years, you see Discovery fly away, and someone has closed the hangar deck doors. They're not open to space, and that has bothered me for 7 years. So I could be at peace with Discovery as it sails away from left.
They added that
that's
into
hilarious.
The little CGI stuff just for you, Chuck.
Probably when they're doing the CGI, someone was like, "Hey, did anybody ever notice this?" And then they fixed it.
Or they listen to this podcast unless you complain about it.
But I'm with Matt. I really wanted some kind of scene where it's the Discovery family.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I mean, nothing against Michael, and not that I don't like her or anything, but I didn't need an epilogue that was only about her.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see the gang together, you know?
But this entire series was pretty much Michael and not about the crew at all whatsoever.
At least we got appearances by Owo and Detmer in the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I almost wasn't sure if those were the same people.
They were.
I know, but it had been so long since I'd seen them and their hair changed.
2 points though. One, I looked for every one of the bridge crew, and I saw all of them except one. I did not see Bryce, but he's in the credits, so he was there somewhere.
I did see Bryce,
but I never saw him. Two,
I did see Bryce.
He was also at the wedding.
Two. Yes. Yes. Tignataro was listed in the opening credits, but she was not in the episode. She was only in the epilogue. They flew her back to not have any dialogue and to just kind of hug people and stuff like that. And had that not been the case, we would have gone the season finale with no Jet Reno. That's weird because usually they use her near the beginning, they use her at the end, and then once or twice somewhere in the middle. And this time she didn't get very many appearances and nothing at the end.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I did look, they had a CGI Culber in. I think he wasn't available. They had to
really
CGI him to that little dream sequence. And if you watch it, like he looks kind of strange. I think they had to paste him in.
And did they only show him in close up, or did you see him in crowd scenes too?
Well, what I spotted was there was a back, which was probably a double going into Hugger or whatever.
Right.
Shot that looked kind of weird.
Right.
But I didn't see Jemison or Asha at all.
They were at the wedding, but they weren't in the epilogue.
That's true.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean,
See?
Yeah.
See, Charles?
And Owo and Detmer weren't at the wedding.
Yeah.
Exactly.
See, Charles, they kept the progenitor tech.
So had we not got the epilogue, we would never have seen them.
Yep.
Yeah. If they kept progenitor tech, they could all shown up as clones.
You'll probably because they're traveling at warp speed. They're still warping back with the ISS Enterprise. They don't have a spore drive. They missed the way.
Yeah. They got the new pathway drive, whatever that is.
Right. Okay, let's see. Wayne says, have you seen the modern military uniforms where the rank insignia is on the center of their chests?
That's wrong.
No. What military is that, Wayne?
Wow.
Well, he can't answer.
He's not going to answer. So let's keep going.
And Matt says, I didn't see Culber in the long shots.
No, I just spotted him in those 2 shots.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, people have jobs they have to take. Like, not everyone can just fly back to Toronto to hug Michael Burnham on camera and then leave. You know.
Gee, what does that say to all those people who did do that?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if they're all there at the same time, or if they had to use digital trickery to get them all in the same shots, or if they had to just get people in to smile and hug each other, and then,
or if their work was in Toronto already.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, you would think Owen and Detmer probably at least are working in Toronto. I don't know where Culber's is. I don't know where his home base is. You know? But I know he does. I mean, previously he's done Broadway stuff and Hollywood stuff. So
it just seems weird to me that if you're going to create this whole epilogue and make it all about Burnham, to fly these people in and put them on a soundstage just to have them hug each other. Like there's no, like they're not being involved in anything. And it's really a flashback. They're not even really.
So I don't think it was even a flashback. I think it was like her remembering those.
She was just dreaming about them, but I don't know how much budget they were given to do this. So it could be they could afford, a couple of people for a couple of days and everyone else for a half day. I don't know how it works out. But,
I know.
I don't know. I thought it gave the show a little more finality, and at least no one's going to be asking about Calypso.
True.
Well, I guess people will probably still ask about Calypso because that just raises more questions than it answers.
Yes.
But they tried. But on the whole, I thought it was a great finale. I had a good time with it.
Good.
Yeah, same here. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I kind of felt about it the way I felt about the whole season. It was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same here.
All right. Well, and then next week we're going to be talking about the Series 5 as a whole, sort of in retrospect, now that we've seen it all. And we're going to have some extra voices on to join us. So those of you who are tired of listening to us talk about it, you'll have a little bit of break and have someone else on to talk about it along with us.
And I've gotten a couple of questions asking when we were going to do an actual Discovery retrospective, and that's later this year, right? That's not going to be like in the next few weeks. We'll talk the entire franchise, the series.
Yeah,
itself.
I'd like to rewatch the show before doing that.
I especially want to rewatch season 1.
Yeah,
because I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, and it's so funny you say that, Alan, because one thing I put in my notes is life has intervened. Life has kind of gotten in the way of my connection with the show because of things like COVID, and there were so many gaps between seasons for so many reasons, and so I kind of don't feel the connection that I wanted to feel with it. And then shows like Voyager, which I may have never, I didn't watch the entire Voyager series when it first aired. I watched most of it, but then of course in reruns I could watch all 7 seasons back to back to back. So I felt some kind of way, kind of a sadness and attachment. But you're right, it's so long ago for the first season or the second season. I don't have that connection like I wanted to. So it might be good to go back and get that again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, Keith, where can people find more of you?
On X and Facebook, primarily the ESO Network Facebook groups.
And how about you, Alan?
CosmicCreative.com, KOZMIC, creative.com. Got an announcement coming out tomorrow.
Ooh. And how about us, Veronica?
Feltnerdy.com.
And?
Monkeying Around, podcast about the monkeys.
And do you have a closing for us this week?
I do. Look into my eyes and tell me I'm not serious.
Okay, good job.
Ooh, nice.
Well, everyone join us at 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. We go live, and we'll be talking about Discovery next week, and then we'll have some legacy Star Trek topics coming up after that.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks all.
See everybody next week.